Mud and debris would block shipping traffic for months. The northwestern economy would be crippled, sending financial shockwaves around the world. But in the event of a lahar, plans are in place to try to mitigate the human cost.
Washington State's Emergency Operations Center will activate sirens throughout the valley. We will also activate basically a reverse 911 system that calls every home, every business throughout the valley, and we would have ample warning for people to get about 50 feet off the valley floor. That's what's going to save their lives.
Few doubt that the Cascade region must prepare for a potential future disaster.
Mount Rainier and the other Cascade volcanoes will erupt again. It's not a question of if, but when.
As scary as a lahar might be, imagine one twice as fast and burning. Volcanoes have terrified and killed with lava, clouds of gas and ash, blocks of tephra, and bolts of lightning, with mountainous tsunamis and thundering mudslides called lahars. But few things are as deadly as the volcanic debris that hits the hazard list at number 3, pyroclastic flows.
Hot rock and other gas that flows down the slope of a volcano. A pyroclastic flow pretty much destroys anything in its path.
Pyroclastic is Greek for broken fire, and the flow's incinerating gas-fueled heat is one of its most dreaded attributes. Pyroclastic flows can easily reach temperatures above 1,300 degrees, and this avalanche isn't just hot, it's fast. Up to 100 miles an hour, the momentum gives it a terrible force.
Pyroclastic flows have been recorded completely busting down cement structures, so they can, level a building and leave only the foundation. So it's pretty hard to survive this mixture of gas and ash.
Almost half the death toll from pyroclastic flows comes from a single disaster. The year was 1902. The location, the island of Martinique, where the volcanic Mount Pelée threatened the city of Saint-Pierre.
The volcano put out plenty of warning signs. Life in the town was miserable. There was ash everywhere. There had been small pyroclastic flows that had killed people. The volcano was giving as many warning signs as it possibly could. But the local people did not know how to interpret them. And the governor actually discouraged people from leaving the town because they were going to have elections.
On May 8, 1902, Mount Pelée exploded with cataclysmic force. A pyroclastic flow glowing with heat hurtled down the mountain at 93 miles an hour. It took just 3 minutes to reach Saint-Pierre, and the terror began.
If you are caught in one of those pyroclastic flows, you die a very nasty death, not only from burns, but also suffocation and burning inside.
In a matter of minutes, the population of Saint-Pierre went from 28,000 to 2. One was a man hiding in his basement, the other a prisoner in a stone cell.
He was badly burned, but he was still alive, and he was the only person alive in the main part of town. And the rescuers heard his cries, and in fact he was eventually released and pardoned because he had committed a crime, but I think they figured that if he could survive that, that was okay.
Although death by pyroclastic flow is horrific, it is at least quick. But a slower, more indirect cause of death has claimed even more lives than pyroclastic flows. Number 2, starvation. In the 19th century, mudslides, pyroclastic flows, and tsunamis from volcanic disasters, including Krakatoa, cut off whole populations from desperately needed food supplies, while falling ash destroyed crops thousands of miles away. The victims did not burn, nor were they buried in mud or ash. Nevertheless, almost 90,000 people have died from volcano-related starvation. With 21st century emergency services, including air transport, instantaneous communication, and organized relief efforts, the threat of huge communities being cut off and starved to death by volcanic eruptions has been significantly reduced. But volcanoes still have a staggering economic and social effect. Eruptions have displaced more than 1 million people.
You're looking at businesses and homes that may not be able to be reoccupied, maybe not ever.
But even starvation and evacuation pale behind the global murder sprees that are the most devastating way volcanoes kill. Volcanoes can kill directly and indirectly. Their most dangerous weapon can take centuries to finish its deadly task. Volcanic weapon number 1, the greenhouse effect. It may not sound as frightening as lava or pyroclastic flows, but combined attacks of gas and dust can alter the climate and wipe out whole species.
Volcanic eruptions in the past have been linked with several of Earth's mass extinctions.
Some evidence suggests that volcano victims may include the dinosaurs of the Cretaceous era, 65 million years ago.
There is a widely accepted theory that the impact of a meteor, about a 6-kilometer meteor in the Yucatan Peninsula, is what really caused the extinction. But nevertheless, there was a large eruption of the Deccan Traps in India about the same time that the dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago, and its effects in the atmosphere may have had some effect also.
The now extinct Deccan Traps were a 1 million square mile range of volcanoes in India's Deccan Plateau. Trap is a geological term for the region's steppe-like formations. Around 65 million years ago, the Deccan Traps erupted repeatedly, pouring out oceans of lava that released vast amounts of greenhouse gases that could have changed Earth's atmosphere.
It's a common perception that volcanic ash could get into the atmosphere and obscure the sunlight, but geologists have found that it's the tiny aerosols, the tiny droplets of sulfur and sulfuric acid that get into the atmosphere that actually play a pretty significant role in blocking the sun and cooling the Earth.
In the early 21st century, humans produce about 80 million metric tons of sulfur dioxide annually. Each eruption of the Deccan Traps could have released more than 1 billion metric tons into the air, cooling the planet and ending the reign of the dinosaurs. While scientists debate the cause of death of the dinosaurs, many are ready to convict volcanoes of an even greater act of mass murder. Something terrible happened all over the world 251 million years ago. At the end of what is called the Permian era, 70% of all life on land and 90% of all sea life became extinct. Scientists call it the Great Die-Off, and it may have been triggered by volcanoes in what is now Siberia.
The so-called end of Permian mass extinction 251 million years ago may well have been caused by the eruption of the Siberian traps, the lava flows that were produced, which basically produced so much carbon dioxide that they radically changed the Earth's atmosphere.
And there's a possibility that volcanic ash actually lowered the temperature of the Earth's atmosphere sufficiently so that the animals and plants that were here at that time could no longer exist and became extinct.
A demonstration of volcanic climate change was seen in 1991. When Mount Pinatubo hurled 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide 12 miles into the skies above the Philippines. The clouds circled the globe in 3 weeks. Atmospheric moisture transformed the cloud's sulfur dioxide into sulfuric acid, which reflected back the sun's rays. and reduced Earth's average temperature by about